5 minutes and then we'll get into that. Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai 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 Vrindavan Dham.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai 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 Vrindavan Dham.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai 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 Vrindavan Dham.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai 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 Vrindavan Dham.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham.
Oh, Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai 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 Vrindavan Dham.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai 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 Vrindavan Dham.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai 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 Vrindavan Dham.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai 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 Vrindavan Dham.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shyam.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shyam.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shyam.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shyam.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Radhe.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Radhe.
Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shyam.
Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shyam.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai 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 Kalambastham.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Shri Kulamasthan.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai 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 Kalambastham.
Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shyam, Jai Jai Kulamasthan.
Jai Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jai Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
So I'll tell you first in why I chose this topic, and then I'll go through some acknowledgments real quick, and then we'll do some Mangalachara, if that is okay with everybody. Okay, but if anybody wants me to change anything, please let me know. Okay. Sometime back I was talking to Premsundar Prabu, and as invariably happens, I always talk about money and material things, and then he said, why don't you think about giving a class over here? And I was like, I'm pretty sure I won't be able to do that, and number two, nobody would want me to do that. He said, why don't you talk about Janmashtami? And so as a service, I was doing some research, and it became very clear to me that I don't have the adhikar to talk in Columbus about Janmashtami. I'm not there. And so I was like, but the service was already asked for, and there was some commitment made. So what do I do to honor that service still, right? So I was thinking, well, if we can't talk about the appearance day of Krishna, then why don't we talk about the appearance day of Lord Jaganath? Because Jaganath is munificent, very merciful, very approachable, and he has a different, relationship with the devotees. He's very forgiving, so that's what led me to choose to talk about Snan Yatra. Okay. We tried our best technically to make this a full screen. We were not able to, so please forgive us for our technical deficiencies. So I'll start with some acknowledgements. So of course, Srila Prabhupada, but in more ways than one. When I was growing up, I was born in Calcutta, and for a really long period of time, I had heard about Puri and about Jaganath deities in Puri, but I'd never been there, and it was very far removed from me. That we do anything called like Snan Yatra. I didn't even know what it was, to be very honest with you. And so right now, we don't even have to go to Jagannath Puri. I mean, because of Srila Prabhupada's incredible mercy and influence, we can do Snan Yatra and Rath Yatra in pretty much anywhere all over the world. So this is something that we have to keep in mind. The kirtan that we just sang, a very short kirtan, that was actually the last kirtan of Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj. So I would strongly recommend, if anybody ever has the time, to listen to that last kirtan and also listen to his final lecture. Of course, these are his final public kirtan and public lecture. Privately, I'm not sure what transpired after that. It's incredible and esoteric in many different levels. So this was one way I wanted to. Over here you will see, of course, as many of you know, this is my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Giraswami Maharaj. And of course, I mean, whatever little bit of knowledge and empowerment one has to do anything in this spiritual life is because of the mercy of the Guru. And through the Guru Parampara as well. And of course, all the Vaishnavas were really manifestations of different aspects of that mercy coming from the Guru. And in addition to that mercy, there are some elements of this Snan Yatra which I have borrowed from a couple of his lectures. Okay? Yeah, Hare Krishna, Mataji. Would you like to speak, Mataji? Thank you. And then this is, in the middle, this is Bhakti Rasamrita Swami Maharaj. And so the majority of the lecture of Snan Yatra is actually borrowed from him. So again, you can do a YouTube search. Definitely, he has encyclopedic knowledge about that. He's attended the original Snan Yatras a couple of times, and then, of course, in many other places in ISKCON. And then, when I was meditating on this, the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.3.44 came to mind, which is Yatha Ditam Yatha Mati. And the context over here is Sutta Goswami is being asked by the sages to speak about what really transpired between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami, and he leads by this, and I think had that pulled up as well. So here you go. And what he essentially says is, O learned Brahmanas, when Sukadeva Goswami recited Bhagavatam, there in the presence of Emperor Parikshit, I heard with rapt attention, and thus, by his mercy, I learned the Bhagavatam from that great and powerful sage. Now I shall try to make you hear the very same thing as I learned it from him, and as I have realized it. And I realized that, so I'm trying to embody that, but again, to the extent of my adhikar. So surely there will be misunderstandings from my side and not complete realizations also from my side. So that's why I wanted to mention the original source as well, so that you can look at that source and then correct those. Okay. So now, having given these acknowledgements, I wanted to also acknowledge all of you. First, Shri Radha Narpar, gone and died, Jaganath Shavadra, Nashinadev, the wonderful Dham of ISKCON Columbus, and there's amazing devotees over here. And this is really an element of your mercy, that you're willing to put up with somebody sitting over here and talking about Samhita. You're way more elevated than I can ever imagine to be in many lifetimes. So please bless me and pray for me so that I'm able to deliver this with at least some semblance of sanity. Okay? And so with all of that being said, let's do Mangalachan. Om Ajnanatirandasya Jnananjanakshalakaraya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Pradati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Yuta Kamalam Shri Guru Sadvekam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sarvana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Shakapate Gopesha Gopikakanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Paramhi Radhe Deva Ishwari Vrishabhanu Sudevi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All right, so we'll start with an understanding of festivals within our movement. What you see over here on the left is just 1 month, so from roughly 1 month, mid-February to mid-March.
There is a request from her that she can make it full screen.
Oh, that would be wonderful. If somebody can do that, that will, yes, please.
Sorry for the interruption.
No, this is good interruption. So I can, but I can still continue to talk about this if that's okay in the interest of time. Yeah. So. Yeah. Yeah, please. Yeah. All right. So, well, what we were seeing was the festival calendar from Alachua. Okay, and this was just to show that how dense the festivals are, or the frequency of the festivals are within our movement, right? And yeah, we tried. I mean, I think the mouse gets lost, and then we basically pray for the mercy of the Vaishnavas, and it comes back up somehow. And, okay. No.
F5. I got you. It's going to the other screen.
Okay.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that.
We tried. Thank you for your assistance. So last time what we had to do is just go back to this screen with an Alt tab, and then the mouse came back up. Okay, it's a little distracting. Yeah. Do you mind if we go back to the way we were making it work? And I think I know what to do. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. There you go. Yeah, I put it back. This one?
Yeah, that's the one.
Everybody devotees, Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So the moral of the story is the holy name solves everything. Right? So it did work till we started chanting, and then we did. And thank you so much, Prabu. What was your name?
Oliver.
Oliver and Mataji? Seema. So how many devotees does it take to get a slideshow properly? So yes, I apologize for the delay. So okay, so where were we? Yeah, we were talking about this.
It's not duplicating.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. Yeah, it is. Okay, it's just latency. All right. Would you guys mind if I hear? It's a little bit easier for me to operate this. Okay. Okay, so this Srimad Bhagavatam text, which I put over here, we'll just talk about that in a minute, but I think where I was going with this was, yes. So there is this Bengali saying, Baro Mashe Tero Parvan, but of course in Vaishnava philosophy, it is more than Tero Parvan. Tero Parvan means 13 festivals in 12 months, essentially, Baro Mash. But in Vaishnava calendar, as we can see, there's more than 10, 12 festivals within a period of 1 month. And this is a very interesting pastime that, a very interesting opinion that Sukadeva Goswami gives. I can't see the cursor over here for some reason. Okay, did I? Yeah. Oliver, we might need some more help. Sorry. I'm trying to get so that I can keep going back from one string to another and I keep losing this. So again, I lost this. I don't have a mouse or anything like that, but I lost the mouse cursor again. Oh, there you go. It came back up. But wait, I wanted to pull this up and show this. Not this, but this. Okay? All right. All right. So thank you so much, Oliver. Now the context behind this, this particular chapter is Sukadeva Goswami is talking about the genealogy. So this, such and such son, and then that was the descendant, and this was the ascendant, and so on and so forth. You can pull this up on your phone if the display is a little better, 92465. But I think the relevant text is right there. So which is, so he's talking about all of these different things, and culminates on the appearance of Lord Krishna. And this is just a summary of like, oh, and then Lord Krishna appeared, and this and such thing happened. Okay? And over here, what he's saying is, look, Krishna's face is decorated with ornaments, such as earrings resembling sharks. His ears are beautiful, his cheeks brilliant, and his smiling attractive to everyone. Whoever sees Lord Krishna sees a festival. So this is particularly important in the contextual sense of our discussion today. It says Nityotsavam. But then he says Nata Tripur, which is even then, so Nityotsavam is every day it's a festival. And yet it is not satisfying. So what is not satisfying? The festival is not satisfying? Then no. What's not satisfying is that we still can't get enough of it. Even though every day is a festival, the devotees over there were not able to, devotees in Mathura is where he's particularly talking about here, they were able to see the Lord every day, but yet they were not satisfied. And then he goes further down and he talks about an example of a dissatisfaction, where he says, his face and body are fully satisfying to everyone to see, but the devotees are angry at the Creator for the disturbance caused by the momentary blinking of their eyes. And we see the sentiment also expressed in other places, right? So for example, the gopis also express the exact same sentiment, and they complain against Lord Brahma, okay? But the point that we were trying to make is, there are, our movement is just literally filled with festivals. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his Sudha Bhakta Charana Renu, he mentions this and he says, Madhava Tithi Bhakti Janani. So he gives a little bit of an esoteric value to these festivals. And he says like, look, these festivals are not just giving us enjoyment and happiness and pleasure and ecstasy, but they're also Bhakti Janani. They are also the mother of Bhakti. So they're also giving birth and enhancing more and more Bhakti. And you will see this even amongst anybody else who would come in. I think just in a few days' time, Janmashtami is going to start, and we'll have the dosa centers there and whatnot. That's pretty much the only reason I come to Columbus for Janmashtami. And there will be people who will just show up, right? And it's, in one way, one could argue that it gives them Bhakti Sukriti, but it's even more than that. It gives birth to their spiritual journey. So this is one aspect of it. I am really scared about making this full screen, so I'm going to stay on this if that's okay with everyone, okay? All right, so now we come to the Devasnana Purnima. Okay, so this happens on the Purnima Tithi of Jyeshta month. So most of us know we follow the lunar calendar, and there's Jyeshta, Ashar, Shravan, and so on and so forth. Different months are there, and the Purnima is essentially the full moon. So Purnima, Purnam, like Purnam Idam Purnamada, so full, okay, complete, whole. All right, and right up to after 15 days, it goes from the full to the waning crescent and so on and so forth to no moon, okay, Amavasya. And so this portion is called as the Shukla Pakha, and then the no moon to again full moon, Krishna Pakha, so the dark period. Sorry, right? Did I get that right? Everybody's okay with that? Did I get that opposite, Mataji? So this is Krishna Pakha, and that is Shukla Pakha. Okay, got it. So the Purnima Tithi of the Jyeshta month, this is when our Snan Yatra begins, all right? And like I mentioned in the beginning, this commemorates the appearance day of Lord Jaganath, if one could call it that. And of course, all of us know that the birthday or appearance day of the Lord is it's to be understood with a deeper philosophy. So the Lord doesn't really take birth the way we normally do. So the Lord appears based on His will and His independence at certain times to give us the mercy. So we are not going to get into that right now. But we are instead going to talk a little bit about the history of this, okay? So on the left, you will see this was the original Nila Madhav temple, okay? And on the right, it's not really a samadhi, but almost like an embodiment of a samadhi to Vishwavasu, the chief of the Sabri tribe. So as history tells us, long time ago, Nila Madhav was the presiding deity. And he was worshipped by this tribe called the Sabari tribe, out of which chief was Vishwavasu. Okay? And then, long story short, Nila Madhav disappeared, only to reappear in a different form after a lot of other esoteric pastimes. First in the dream of this king called King Indradumna, and then manifested through these darus or big logs, which were then carved out to form Jaganath. Okay? So again, it's that by itself, that episode by itself will take us several days to even talk about, but this is in brief what it is. Okay? So where can we find more information about that? So the appearance of the Lord in that form is first mentioned in the Skanda Purana, and then, but the elaborate details of how he appeared and what did Indradumna Maharaj feel in his dream, and what was his interaction, and how was this whole Daru commissioned into Lord Jagannath, and who all came and who did the carving and how was the carving, how many days, what happened, who ate what, were they watching internet at that time. So all of those details are given in Jagannath Priya Nataka. Okay, and interestingly enough, last time I was in Vrindavan, I saw that there are English translations for these books. So it's a very interesting read if you have the time to do that. Now, once the deities were made or constructed by actually Vishwakarma, then obviously the question came of installing the deities, and a huge ceremony was planned to install the deities. Different exotic personalities like Brahma, Narada, and so on and so forth, they all came from different portions of the universe. The demigods came to attend that ceremony, and in that ceremony, the Lord's beautiful form was inaugurated, and the Lord was first bathed. And so that was the first Snan Yatra that we had. Okay? And this process of that, what really happened in that ceremony and what happens in subsequent ceremonies, how to observe the Snan Yatra from a religious and spiritual and ritualistic standpoint is very elaborately given in this book called Niladri Mahoday. But this is an Oriya book. I don't know whether we have an English translation. I'm assuming we do. But if one wants to read a little bit more about the elaborate parts of it, then one can go to look up that reference. Okay? All right. So be it. So now, Lord Jagannath is special. Okay, so how is he special? So can anybody over here tell me what are the different forms of the deities that can be worshipped?
You need metal. wood,
Metal, okay. Wood,
paint,
of course.
paint,
Painting,
Stone.
yes. Stone, 4.
Clay,
Clay or mud, 5.
sand,
I'm sorry?
sand,
sand
Sand, yes, 6.
in the mind.
In the mind, 7.
jewel,
Jewels. Who said jewels? There you go. Jewels. Yes. So these are the 8 ways. So this is very nicely given in this 11, 27, 12. So let's just quickly refer to it. The deity form of the Lord is said to appear in 8 varieties: stone, wood, metal, earth, paint, sand, the mind, or jewels. Okay. And as we can see, the most common forms of the deities that we worship are in metal, in stone, and of course in pictures as well, right? And especially deities which are installed in temples or big institutions like that are either metal or stone, right? And among stone also there's different varieties and so on and so forth. But we won't get into that. So Lord Jaganath in one way is special because you don't really see such huge deities worshipped, made out of wood. Okay, so that's one way he's special. Another way is, you will see in India, many of these olden temples and older deities, ancient deities that we have, they're actually quite small. They're beautiful, but they're in size-wise, that Jagannath is huge, right? And this by itself is very different than what it was. Now imagine this happening centuries ago. Then that is the only deities in the world which are that big. Can you imagine that? Okay. Then the other thing you'll see is deities who are, most of the other deities, they are not always bathed. Very occasionally, once in a while, those big deities are bathed, right? And Jaganath is not only bathed, but is bathed periodically, right? Every year during the Snan Yatra and so on and so forth. And many of these larger deities, when the bathing has to be done on a regular basis, you don't bathe those big deities, but you bathe the smaller versions of the deities, which are called as the Utsav deities, okay, or Vijayamurtis, right? But what is the Utsav deity of Vijayamurti for Lord Jagannatha? Does anybody know? It is Madan Mohan. This is the Utsav deity for Lord Jagannatha. Isn't it very interesting? So the Utsav deity of Lord Jagannatha is Krishna. And this is, when I was growing up, I honestly did not know, and this is, another example of how foolish I am even now, I did not know that Lord Jagannatha is the same as Krishna. And it took me a long time to get to that, that understanding of the story and the pastime and so on and so forth. But it establishes in a subtle way that, Lord Jagannatha is no different from Krishna, okay? And also, the deities who are once established in the temple, they are not really moved around for a long time, right? So very, very rarely, somebody is coming to conquer you or something like that, then deities are taken, put in a safe place and so on. But Jagannath is not like that. So Jagannath, first he's taken to a place where he's bathed, and then he's taken somewhere else where he can recover, and then he's taken somewhere else in a completely different geography, in a totally different zip code, and so on and so forth. And over there, he's there for some time, and then he comes back. So he does a lot of moving around, which is very interesting for somebody who doesn't have hands and feet. But this is another very interesting phenomena of what makes Lord Jagannath special. There are a couple of additional things which I will talk about later on, about what makes Lord Jagannath so special. Okay? So now we'll jump into the Snan Yatra process. Now, a couple of days prior to Snan Yatra, there is this well called a Sonatwa, or the Golden Well. And what happens is that the water in that well is only used for Snan Yatra. There's no other use for the water throughout the year, okay? And there are these people who are called as the Swaras, who are, some consider them as descendants of, the Vishwavasu. And the Subara tribe. Well, hold on. Saubara tribe. Yeah, thank you. And but actually, that's not necessarily factually true, is what I found out. The Daitas, who take care of the law during the period of time after the Sanyata, are definitely descendants. But the Swaras, let's say, they are a mix between elevated Brahmanas and the descendants. And anyways, what these people do is they cover their mouth or take a lot of religious precautions and procedures and go to this Sonatwa and take the water, and they carry this water, as you can see, on their head, and they bring it to this place called as Bhog Bhandar, which is really a huge pantry. Okay, and so almost like a couple of weeks prior to this event, there is significant amount of portion of that pantry which is cleared out, and space is made over there, and the water is kept over there pretty much the night prior to the actual bathing. It's not before that. And once the early morning happens of Snan Yatra, all these pots, there are about 130 odd pots of water. They're taken to this huge place that is created, which is called as the Snan Mandap. The Snan Mandap is just a bathing platform. That's what the translation is. And these pots of water are kept over there, and they're blessed by these brahmanas who are called as the Palla Pandits. And what do these Palla Pandits do? They chant different types of mantras, and they put different types of auspicious things into those waters. For example, in some pots they'll put some camphor and some, turmeric and things like that, some whole grains and different types of sweet-smelling herbs and so on and so forth. Okay, so now let's take a look at what really happens. And then once the Snan Mandap is created, the platform is created, it is created at an elevation, so that people from far away can also see what is going on. All right. So next we will see a video of that arrangement. Okay. And the video doesn't have any sound, so nothing is yet wrong with the laptop if you don't hear that sound. What we will observe in the video is first the Simha Dwar, which is the lion gate to the temple. And then we will take a panoramic view of the temple and the surrounding, and then we'll zoom into the actual Snan Mandap. Okay, cool? Let's do that. All right. My mouse decided to. There you go. Oops. Forward. There you go. So this is the Simha Dwar, the lion gate. Behind you'll see this is the main temple, and then there is this chakra at the top. And this chakra itself is very interesting because no matter where you stand, it's almost as if the chakra will still face you. So there is some lag and some latency. I can see the video well here, but not there. But that's okay. So this is the entrance, and there are people who are the Swaras and all the priests, they go through that, and then we'll see the platform in a minute once that comes up. Okay, so you see that's the platform that is created, and it's at an elevation, and everybody standing outside as well as over there are able to see this. So this is that platform, okay? And over here, right before the ceremony, Jaganath, Baladev, Subhadra, they are dressed in these silken robes, and then all these pots that you see over there, these are actually not the pots to bathe, these are other pots just to wash the feet and all that, but there will be more pots that you will see in a minute. And this is where the water is going to be kept and blessed. So let's just take a look at that. And let me see. Come on, then. Okay, all right. So as you will see over here, these people who are sitting, and we have another picture to zoom in on them. They are the ones who are actually sitting and blessing this. Now these are called as Balla Pandas, and these are also Pandas. They are not the either the Swaras or the Daitas, and their job, they participate in the actual bathing ceremony. Okay. So let's take a look at the Balla Pandas one more time. See, now you can see that they are blessing the water and about to start the ceremony. Okay? So, and then what happens? Well, then Jaganath, Baladev and Subhadra are bathed. And of course it is done in a very organized fashion, which is, you can be the judge of that. But people, all these brahmanas, they will start pouring water, and it's an amazing atmosphere. People are Jai Jaganath, Jai Jaganath, Jai Baladev, Jai. And then people are saying prayers. Some people are crying, weeping, and then water is being poured, and then some of the brahmanas will take this beautiful. Some will be cloth, some will be stones. They are not just any stones which you pick up. There are some very special stones and all that. And then they'll start scrubbing Jagannath. And especially you will see many of them will be scrubbing the eyes. It's considered to be quite auspicious in that sense. So let's see how this video plays. Otherwise, I can even see if I can play the video over here also. Well, I'll have to first figure out what it is. Okay, I think this should play. Let's see. All right. So see, water is it, and then you'll already see people scrubbing. So that was Jaganath, Baladev, and you see that with cloth and with stones and different things. They'll be scrubbing. And one of the things you will see is that the paint starts running, right? So this is actually what happens on Snan Yatra, all right? Okay, more or less here. Okay, so now remember I was telling you another thing that makes Lord Jagannath so special is what happens after that. So a couple of things happen after that. So one thing that happens immediately after this is Lord Jagannath and Baladev, they are dressed in an elephant costume. And this by itself is very interesting. And this is also called as Gaja Vesh or Ganesh Vesh or Hathi Vesh, okay, depending upon who you talk to. And then that's one thing. And then the second thing that happens is all this cold water which is poured over the deities, it makes Lord Jagannath sick. And which by itself is very difficult to understand, because how can the Lord get sick? And the practical understanding of this is that, well, the deities are painted by using natural pigments, and over a period of time, these pigments, especially if they are, being washed and so on and so forth, they run away, as you can see already, right? So one is you don't necessarily want to see the deities in that form, right? And for many of the devotees who have the proper spiritual vision, for them it might not make any difference, but for people who don't, they might become a little bit offensive and say, oh my gosh, he's looking so bad, or whatever it is, pass some kind of a passing comment, which is not necessarily good. So that's really the reason why this Gaja Vesh or the elephant dress is here. Now Subhadra said like, well, I'm not going to wear an elephant dress, no matter what. And so for her, she's dressed up in a lotus dress, okay? And then you will see that over here, and assuming this one plays well, let me see if this one, I have all these movies. over here. So if they play, then at least we will get a better experience of the movie. Oh, no. This. Okay. This. Not this either. And then this. That. Yeah. So if this one plays, I think it will be a way better experience. So let's see. Sorry, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, this clearly is not working. Okay. All right, so let's play it actually like this only. Okay. So this is the elephant dress. So first you'll see Jaganath. Isn't it beautiful? So it's not just like any random dress that is put up there. It's very ornate. There are specific types of flowers which are kept in front of specific deities. And then you will see all the deities in different types of such elephant dresses. And Subhadra's, of course, it is over here in the lotus dress and so on. So this is the reason why they are dressed up like that. Okay? All right, and then what happens? Then what happens is the Lord retires in inner chambers. And there is a very elaborate description of those chambers. It's not just like another room in the temple. There are very specific chambers created, and it's a passageway to the actual main temple. And it is guarded in a way that nobody else, other than the Daitas and the head priest, can get into those chambers. And this period is called as Anavasara. Okay. So many of us who are in Indian bodies, avsar means opportunity. Okay, avsar nahi mila ye kaam, ye service karne ke liye, Prabhuji. So that is a very common term in our movement. But anavasar therefore means no opportunity. Okay, so no opportunity to see the Lord. All right, and so very quickly the role of the Daitas. So the Daitas are the descendants. They are the only people who can take care, who are designated to do two things. One, take care of the deities at this point of time. Number two, do the actual painting of the deities. And they can paint every portion of the deity with the exception of the eyes. Okay, the eyes are still painted by the head priest. And so on the left, which you see over here, are during this time, they create all these herbal potions. And these herbal potions are fed to all the deities. And on the right, you'll see this is how they are making all these paints. So for example, over here, you'll see charcoal. So with the charcoal, they make the black paint, and then using turmeric, they make yellow paint, and then I think mother of pearl is used for white, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is what they do. And then after these 14 days, so 14 plus 1, so 15 days, what we have is called as the Nava Yovana or Netrotsava festival. So now the Lord is completely freshly painted. And Lord Jaganath and all the deities, they're covered, their eyes are covered by a cloth. And then they are again brought in a procession right out. And at that point of time, their cloth is removed. And therefore that festival is called Netrotsav, the festival of the eyes. All right? And also it's called Nava Yovana. So it's like a new youth. Yovana is youth. So the Lord looks fresh and more youthful at this point of time. Okay? Now, there is another thing that happens. So far, we've seen that the Lord is the same deities who were there in the temple were brought out, bathed, taken in, painted, and so on and so forth. But every now and then, after a certain period of time, the deities themselves are changed, which is again something which is very unique to Jagannath, right? And this is called as the Nava Kalevar. And when does this happen? This happens, as you know, like this year is the Purushottam year, but it doesn't happen every Purushottam. It happens only when the Purushottam month coincides with the month of Ashar. Okay? So at that point of time, the Lord is not just gone for 2 weeks, he's gone for 2 weeks plus that extra month, 4 weeks. So that is total 6 weeks. So this gives enough time to get all of those things properly situated. Okay? Otherwise, it is considered offensive to change the deities. Okay? All right, so this won't take much time. We'll end on time, Prabhu. Okay. All right, so some intimate pastimes. So what happens during this time of those 14 days, right? Where do the devotees go? Well, as our spiritual knowledge given by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur first, and then, of course, Srila Prabhupada and other Vaishnavacharyas as well, the Lord at that point of time resides in Alarnath or Alalnath. And really, or Brahmagiri is also it's called, but actually Alarnath is derived from Alvarnath. Okay, so there were these people called Alvars, and well, they're called Alvarnaths. The deity out there, presiding deity, was Alvar, and then they considered the deity Alvar as their master. So therefore, that place was called Alvarnath. And so this place then later on colloquially started being called as Alarnath. But this is a four-handed Vishnu deity, okay? And this is the exact deity which you see over here on the left. And at that point of time, Lord Jaganath is supposed to reside over there. Now, the pastime, the intimate esoteric pastime over here is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was completely driven berserk because he was missing Lord Jaganath, and he couldn't, figure out how to live without in that absence. And so Alarnath is about 24 kilometers away from the Nilachal temple, and he went over there and he offered his prostrated obeisances in front of the deity over there, and the stone melted. And you will see his body impression, and this is that exact stone. You see the body impression of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I would strongly recommend anybody who has the opportunity to go there to look at it themselves. But the interesting part is, why did this happen? Because if we look at the pastime given in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we come across this very interesting pastime where Krishna was with the gopis, and then for some reason there was a tinge of pride that was depicted or by Krishna within the gopis, and he decided to disappear, right? And at that point of time, the gopis went looking here and there and so on and so forth, searching for Krishna, and they couldn't find him. And Krishna, to hide from the gopis, hid behind a bush, and he then saw the gopis coming, and he knew that he would be caught, so he immediately took the form of the four-handed Vishnu, right? And then the gopis came and saw Narayan over there, four-handed Narayan, Shankha Chakra Gada Padma, and they offered their obeisances and said, "Lord Narayan, it's so nice to see you, please accept our obeisance. Have you seen Krishna?" So they didn't necessarily recognize Krishna in the Narayan form. And Lord Narayan must have, with one of his four hands, pointed them in different directions, and they went in those directions. But when Srimati Radharani came, Lord Narayan could not hold that form anymore. He was overcome and completely overrun by the love of Srimati Radharani. And two of his hands melted, and the Shankha Chakra Gada Padma melted away, and the flute came in, and he came in the form of Krishna. So the pastime over here depicts that the Lord cannot really hide from the intimate love of his dearest devotees, right? So what happens over here then? And number one, and number two, the other aspect of the pastime is the dear devotee wants to see the Lord in the two-handed form and not necessarily is attracted to the Narayan form. So the way this pastime therefore is explained in Alarnath is, well, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came over here, he was in the mood of Srimati Radharani, and so the Lord in Alarnath appeared as Krishna, and not as his beloved Jaganath, and not as the four-handed Narayan form. And that is why seeing the Lord in that form completely filled his heart with ecstasy, and the stone melted in that ecstasy. So that is the esoteric pastime. This is not unique to this one pastime. There is something else also that happened in Kurukshetra, where the dearest devotees of the Lord are not just attracted to the two-handed form of the Lord, but in a particular mood of the Lord, where the Lord comes to Kurukshetra and the devotees from Vrindavan and so on also come. And at that point of time, the gopis say, no, this is not Krishna. This is the son of a prince. This is a king. We want the Krishna who's a cowherd boy. So this is also another aspect of that esoteric pastime. So this is all I had. I would, Hare Krishna, Mother Kamagiri. You know, in the beginning of today's class, I was singing the last kirtan of, last public kirtan of Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj. And when I was doing that research, I realized you were there. And you were also there when I think he left. And I saw the pictures and I was like, wow, we cannot imagine how incredibly fortunate we are to be in your presence.
No, the presence of Srila Prabhupada is always present with us. We're so very fortunate that there's one saying that Srila Prabhupada built a house in which the whole world could live comfortably. You know, and because of that, he has given us each other, you know, to help us to remember Krishna and to be able to have a wonderful family, because we're a family, you know, we're Krishna's family, and we are here to encourage each other to remain faithful, going back home.
Thank you so much. All right, so any comments from anyone? Anything anybody wants to add? If somebody has attended this festival in person, or anything else that anybody would like to bring up, if this is the end of the.
So Prabhu, just the chronology of events, can talk about Snan, Yatra, Yatra, Bahudha Yatra. When does what happen?
Sure.
And what is the significance? Just briefly.
Sure. Okay. So, well, there are a lot of intimate pastimes associated, but very briefly. So we saw Snan Yatra happening in the pretty much right after Purnima. And then right after Snan Yatra happens for about a fortnight, it's actually exactly 15 days, the Lord goes into the inner chambers. That is the period of Anavasara. And during that time, the painting of the deities happen and so on. And so now the Lord is completely new, so to speak, Navayona. And then the deities are brought up. And actually the deities, I forgot to mention this, that process of bringing the deities from one place to another itself is another festival. It's called the Pandu Vijay, or the Pandarya, and so on. So anyway, without necessarily going into that, then the Lord says, okay, I need to go out somewhere. So that's when the Rath Yatra happens. So the deities are put in chariots of their own, and then the chariot goes from one end right up to the other. I think I'll close very quickly. And then over there, the Lord gets completely mesmerized with his devotees. He wants to spend more time with his devotees, but he had said to his wife Lakshmi Devi that, all right, hang on a minute, I'll be right back. But he's not right back. He just completely loses himself in the Bhakta Vatsalya Rasa. And so now Lakshmi Devi becomes like really mad, like what's going on? Like he just said that he'll be gone for a few hours and you're not back for several days. So she sends her servants, and the servants go in there and chastise these servants of the Lord and say, what is wrong with your master? For 14 days, his queen kept and taking care of him, and not worship. I forgot. I took care of him hand and foot. That's where I was going with that. But then he just leaves and he doesn't even come back. And then no, leave us, and then we'll be sure to come back, tomorrow. But he doesn't come back tomorrow. He takes 2 more days, and then he comes back. And that process of the chariot coming back is called as Ulta Rath. Okay, because the Ulta is opposite, Rath is chariot. It's opposite chariot festival. Maybe when we have more time, we can talk a little bit more about the significance of each of these. There are very deep esoteric significances of each of these areas, but that will take some explaining if that's okay, Prabu. Okay? All right. Anything else anybody wants to bring up? All right. Yes?
Yeah, so I might have missed this, but can I know how frequently we pay this for Snan?
How frequent, sorry?
Yeah, we pay this chance to Snan out.
How frequently Snan Yatra happens? It happens once a year, Mataji. Yeah.
Is there like any specific time?
Yes, it happens on the Purnima, on the occasion of Purnima in the month of Jeshta. Could be. It depends upon whether you have, any other questions or comments from here? I thought I saw someone's hand, but maybe they were asking me to leave, so. Anything else? So I really appreciate all of you for patiently listening and for giving this opportunity. Okay? Hare Krishna.